Alright, we're doing a reaction video. Let's go.
She is fearless. Hearts on the line.
You don't hear anything, you don't hear anything. You don't hear anything on screen right now. All you hear is me clanking my cup. I don't want to get copyrighted. Okay, finally.
Movie. What works? What doesn't work? Why I like something? Why I hate something? But to find the good movies that you like, you have to watch many movies, and sadly comes with a lot of bad movies. And trust me, I have watched so many bad movies. Like, I was for some reason drawn to the worst animated movies when I was like 5 through 8. Oh, you grew up with Toy Story and Monsters, Inc.? I grew up with Happy Feet, Hoodwinked, Over the Hedge, and every Garfield movie. I wasted so many hours watching those movies. What even happened? Now, there's a pretty big difference between a forgettable movie and a bad movie. Sometimes a bad movie is also forgettable. Sometimes a movie isn't bad, but is kind of forgettable.
Yeah.
Sometimes a bad movie has more impact than a forgettable movie, and almost offers more by being bad. For example, The Good Dinosaur is obviously the much better movie compared to Norm of the North. But nobody talks about The Good Dinosaur. You know what they do talk about? Norm of the North. Before I get into this video, I just want to state, just because I think a movie is bad does not mean I outright hate it all the time. If you like a movie I don't like, that's great. We don't have to be exactly like each other. I'm okay with having people that like different things. Stop commenting things like that. Over the past few years of getting so many amazing, memorable animated movies, it feels like in this storm of good, we just get so many random, boring ones. With like the most boring premise that I just don't know how they were made. Who sat down and thought Marmaduke was a good idea? I want to know the people responsible for Pinocchio. I'm not saying that people are losing creativity.
They made a Pinocchio
that would
movie?
completely undermine all the creative movies we have gotten. But there's a huge disconnect to what a lot of companies think the audience will like and what they actually like. And that leads us to getting more movies like Trolls 2, 5 Ice Ages, Boss Baby, Storks, Planes, which is literally just Cars, but without the charm of Cars. I never knew if this movie was like a ripoff or associated with Disney. They just never made that clear for some reason. I watched this movie with my family and I don't remember a single moment. I remember the Wii game. I find myself liking the idea of a movie a lot more than the actual movie itself. Execution is a huge part of what makes an idea work. Anybody can have a good idea. The hard part is getting it to connect with other smaller ideas in the movie without making your audience confused or bored. And that doesn't always work, sadly. Let's take Secret Life of Pets, for example. In my opinion, a little better than most Illumination movies. The main idea of this movie isn't actually bad at all. We get introduced to the main character, Max, who is very happy and content with his life as a dog, and then boom, everything is broken when his owner gets another dog. That's actually a really fun idea, and the characters aren't that bad either. They now have the chance to play on the tension of these two characters and maybe add in some heartfelt moments where Max learns to share the love. But I guess this idea wasn't enough, and the creators felt the need to add the most boring escape story known to man. They really did not try with the villain characters at all. I also feel like animated characters are really hard to get right. When I asked my audience on Twitter what they thought was a forgettable movie, a lot of them mentioned animated animal movies. It could be because we're humans and we don't relate or connect with animal characters, but that can't be right because I love Ratatouille. Turning Red was amazing. I cry watching The Lion King. So that just shows that it's all about connection with the characters. No matter what the character is, if it's believable and has a sliver of personality, then animals can definitely work. Toothless doesn't even talk like the rest of animated animals, but DreamWorks manages to make you connect with him solely on his eyes and gestures, leading Toothless to be one of the most memorable animal creature characters.
Sometimes you just have to make their facial expressions work.
I don't think Super Pets is terrible animation-wise. It just seems like such a cheap cop-out for an animated DC movie. Just an animated movie in general. Like, DC literally has millions of characters and worlds they could have made into an animated feature, and they just had to choose to make it about the pets. So original. Which is the problem I think we face with animated movies. Repetitive content has become so apparent these last 10 years. So Marvel just dropped their animated movie Spider-Verse. It's crazy good. OMG, I love that movie. We should make a movie like that. Ooh, I like it. Maybe a CGI Teen Titans movie, Lego Batman 2, maybe a Riddler animated movie. No. We need to give them pets. The Rock needs to be in this movie. He will voice the main pet. At the end of the day, it's all about making memorable characters that makes a memorable movie. Like, sure, story and plot
Then
matter
that-
a ton,
people
but if the
remember the
audience
movie
doesn't
for
care
that
for the
character.
characters, they're not gonna care for the adventures the characters go on. And you don't need a silly montage to show, hey, this character has personality. They're sad. They're happy. Sometimes it kinda works, depending on what your story is, but overall, good characters grow with their surroundings and the story. Coco works because of the wholesome clash with Miguel and Hector. Lego Movie works because of Emmett's optimism clashing with the real world. Luca works so well because of the dynamic of Luca and Alberto's friendship. One character is afraid of doing wrong and obeys the rules, and the other is not afraid to break the rules and actively tries to, which creates this really interesting undertone that makes the audience connect with these characters. And that's when we get to enjoy the story they go on. Pixar is so great when it comes to creating characters because they can make you like a character that seems to be completely unlikable. And then Pixar also does the opposite by making a character that seems to be likable super unlikable to secretly teach the audience a lesson. I just got chills.
I agree with
I wouldn't
that.
say Encanto is my favorite movie of all time, but boy are the characters so well written. Disney manages to even make the least likable character have a little bit of redemption, and that is just amazing writing. And then you got movies that don't do any of this. A lot of these forgettable movies have characters that feel very fast and really bland. Half the time the villain characters feel like they're created not to be a villain but to look as villainy as possible, and they just completely disregard the motives or intent of the character. This is the worst villain I have ever seen in a movie, I'm sorry. They gave her a wart and was like, oh yeah, this is our big bad. Buzz Lightyear worked so well because it was a toy who believed he wasn't a toy, and that brought in a really sad characteristic.
And then they're a bad guy.
When you turn Toy Buzz Lightyear into a human, you completely forget the entire reason he worked in the first place. Toy Buzz Lightyear was unique. He's a toy, a space toy, a new toy. And now he's just a dude. Which is fine because they wanted it to be the origin story of the toy, but like, why? He was a toy, that's what made him good. Why do we need a human version of him? I didn't think it was a terrible movie by any means, but nothing hit me in this movie like most Pixar movies do. It doesn't try to be any more than what it is. And because of that, Human Buzz feels very boring in this movie. He barely has any redemption or change. And don't get me started on the plot twist, I actually rolled my eyes in the theater. Characters are the defining factor to why people watch movies. For demonstration, let's compare movie covers. Let's compare Storks to a movie like Zootopia. Zootopia not only has the less generic cover, it also has characters that feel like they have personality. This is just a boring bird. It looks like a template they would use multiple times for background characters. Which this character works for what they're going for, which is storks, but they could have at least tried a little harder with the human characters. They look so boring and bored. Let's compare Smallfoot to Spies in Disguise. Although these movies are pretty close in quality, Spies in Disguise already has the upper hand for having more of a connection with the audience. The Smallfoot characters feel so stale and one-dimensional. The personality feels constrained to the character design. Now, some people could argue that Zootopia is better than Storks because it has that Disney name brand. But then you also remember that Disney made one of the most forgettable Disney movies, Ralph Breaks the Internet. And Pixar made Cars 2 and Brave, so company name doesn't really matter in the long run. Okay, this is probably a really unpopular opinion, but I honestly think Frozen is kind of a forgettable movie. If it wasn't for Let It Go, that movie would not have been such a phenomenon. And if you take Olaf and Let It Go out of the equation, would this movie be memorable? I don't know. The characters aren't amazing.
Let's hope the fucking hands don't bust out in this or make my pants.
Kinda hard to believe that something so rich and creamy didn't require a single
Oh, Jesus. Cut.
Still great to say.
This is kind of a love story. What is this, if not for passion? At HomeGoods, you can always get more of what you love for less. Because the best things in life don't cost a fortune. They're found. HomeGoods, go find them.
Looking like a llama.
Once you've established some likable characters, that's when the plot does start to matter the most.
Yeah.
Let's take Smurfs Village. It has some really nice animation, some really great characters, but a super bland plot. And they can't really utilize half the plot by introducing the characters because everybody knows the Smurfs already, so now their only chance to make a good movie is the story, and they failed at it. Which is also kind of the sequel problem a lot of movies have. In the first movie, they do a really good job introducing these characters and they become hits. And in the second movie, they're like, oh shoot, we have to try with the story now. DreamWorks has done such a good job expanding already existing stories to make people care again, because that's what makes a sequel memorable. It has to intrigue the audience just as much as the first one did. And DreamWorks takes the time to not just make a new story, but add on to the character's journey. There's more to that character that we didn't know. In Kung Fu Panda 3, they throw in Poe's dad. In How to Train Your Dragon 3, they make Hiccup old. They're so genius, it's so cool. And then you got sequels that don't expand the story and almost backpedal on what makes them good. Like Hotel Transylvania 3 and 4. Like, I understand a lot of people don't even like the first movie, but I thought it was a lot more original than the third and fourth. It's like they gave up on trying to add anything new to the story, and they were just like, we're gonna make them go on vacation. Hotel Transylvania 3 manages to have every single bad animation characteristic that the story feels almost computer generated. Dance ending, check. Catchy pop song, check. Butt scene, check. Fun montage, check. Now all of this would be fine if it wasn't for the fact that there is no other qualities to this movie. Despicable Me, for example, has all of these checked off too, but it has enough good moments that it kind of balances it out. So that's the conclusion for this video. If you have likable characters that feel like they're believable in a plot that doesn't weigh down these characters but gives them more time and moments to shine, then there you have a memorable movie. Now that's probably easier said than done, but if you create something that's special to you, then it'll probably be special to others. And when we do get that lucky movie, it changes tons of lives. And I couldn't be thankful enough that I live in a world with movies like Inside Out, Spider-Verse, Spirited Away, and hundreds of animated movies that have impacted us. Okay, that got really cheesy. I hope you guys liked this video. It was more of like a rant with not much